So, a lovely morning, afternoon to all the participants in this discussion. Today, we're going to meet a young musician named Malik Nagorsen. He is living or is based in Berlin, Germany. So, for Malik, it's afternoon. Aside from working as a musician, what Malik is currently pursuing is his studies in early childhood education. His interest in this is to help have children feel very good about themselves and their identities. He's interested in breaking down barriers and really supporting, let's say, the next generation. So, welcome, Malik. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, I'm gonna start by just telling a little bit about myself and how um, those aspects of my life and growing up led to what I'm doing right now. So I'm mixed myself. My mom is black exactly, and my dad is white. And I grew up in Berlin, and I lived there ever since. And exactly, that's why all of my life until now I grew up with different perspectives and also multiple languages. I speak French and German both. And yes, I went to school also where the school taught us French and German as well. So it was an European school. So there were also many kids from different families, different countries, and different cultural backgrounds. And I used to grow up in all those different kinds of perspectives. I heard a lot of different stories, and yes, I saw a lot of different people. So yeah, that was always normal for me, and also especially in Berlin, which is a very diverse city in Germany. I feel like it was always yeah, default for me to see a lot of different perspectives in people and a lot of different people. Yeah, and I think also that is a big aspect of what made me grow up as a very empathetic person, and I really like listening to stories and other people talking about their lives, and I really like, or I really feel for what people are telling me, and I can be able to listen to them, and that is also a big aspect of why I'm starting, or I started, yes, to go into childhood and education and work at a kindergarten, because I feel like all those things of how people build up their identities and grow up in different families and different backgrounds starts exactly there, where people are born and grow up as very little and learn to perceive the world. And I wanted to see what I can do with my impact in exactly that. And I also think that that's a place where in work you have to be a very empathetic person to help the children and understand their needs and their yeah, their way of being. Yes, and also their all the different kids come from many different backgrounds and many different cultural backgrounds, and bring their own experiences or with them. And it takes a lot to be able to build a team that understands all those different perspectives and different factors. So it's also important, I think, to have a team of educators that are diverse themselves, because we serve as role models, or I don't know if that's the right word for that, but yes, for the children, and help them to perceive the world and what different people are there exactly. And that's why I think also for me it's very important, because I can speak for myself that I have many experiences in being mixed, and how it's like to perceive the world as I am, and that also that helps me bring a lot of empathy towards children who might feel the same thing or might feel that aspect in different kinds of forms. And yes, that's why I believe that workspace is the right choice for me, and I also believe it helps me reflect on my own identity a lot, because children are very pure, and they just show their emotions, and they know how things make them feel, and they show it. And it helps me realize that in many different ways, I also bring my own baggages from the experiences I made throughout my life. And I oftentimes feel, as I'm mixed, that that is a very big part of my identity, but it's yeah, different experiences in my life often made me feel like there's some kind of barrier in between two sides, I would say, and that some perceive me, because I'm looking white to many people, and a lot of people perceive me as white, which I am, but not fully, I would say. And also that way of being perceived from different people also caused of prejudice, I would say, is it made me think a lot of times that you can you have to interpret that identity as some kind of percentage, that I'm only, I would say, 25% Senegalese and 75% German, which also in itself makes a barrier between those two, I would say. And I don't like the fact that there's that kind of thought process behind such things, because I think both both of these sides flow into the other one in my identity, and I'm just the mix of both, exactly.
Mhm.
And yes, I also think that that is a very important part in my work, because prejudice and stereotypes are very big components in this world, and also in behavioral patterns of people. And oftentimes we can understand why there is prejudice and why stereotypes exist, but they often lead to a negative outcome, I would say. And the process of generalizing people by those prejudice and stereotypes often devalues them, and also devalued me, or made me think that I have to reconsider my own value. And therefore we need to be yeah, aware of the prejudices that we have ourselves in our heads, because no person is free of prejudice, I would say. The difference is made when we are aware of what we are thinking and what led to that thought process, and how we can break these thought processes to help better understand what is going on in the world and in the people we talk to and we meet throughout our lives. Exactly. And also for children, that helps because many people judge children by their backgrounds, by their families, and many people don't know what actually is behind that, and those thought processes often root in prejudice. And without those prejudice, or not without, but while being aware of those prejudice, we can allow these children to be free in their identities and to grow without judgment. And it's also important to show empathy and yeah, be positive towards those children and their identities, and also let them bring them out and show what their identities are, because I think it's very, very important to be able to show who you are and show to others your perspective. Exactly, because it reinforces, or it strengthens that bond to your own identity and helps you understand yourself better and helps you be positive about it. Because I myself had a lot of trouble in my life, I would say, with my identity, because yeah, I often felt like I was able to be judged by people because they might not think that I'm mixed, or they might not think that that background is part of me as well. And it was difficult for me to acknowledge that no matter what people are thinking or saying, I'm just who I am, and that's part of me, and that's I like myself that way. Exactly.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
While you were growing up, what were some of the ways that you experienced
Mhm.
being biracial, being not only with a background from one culture? How did
Mhm.
that how did that how did that show itself to you in
Mhm.
while you were growing up?
I remember a lot of experiences in childhood and also in school where I had trouble to really identify myself with the groups of people I was meeting, because yeah, by my skin color, you could not really tell that I have Senegalese background, and I am partly black. And therefore, a lot of people and a lot of friends I had, I didn't know which groups I belonged to really, because when I was with white people, I felt like it was difficult for me to just feel confident about that side of myself. And the other way around, it was also always a discussion of how much black I really am, and if if yeah, I'm allowed to meet those standards of that group, I would say. And those were always weird discussions for me, because I was not really understanding why why we would differentiate there, because I'm neither one of them, I'm both, and yeah, I'm just mixed and I'm who I am. exactly. And I also grew up having a lot of fear towards um, people, or I should put it that way. I had fear that people could judge me if I let out parts of my identity in the world and showed them. And yeah, so that's why I started sometimes behaving differently in different social environments, because I was scared that maybe I could be judged. And yes, those are all conflicts, I would say, that I had, and I still have to this days in different ways, or a little less, I would say. But yes, that made me think a lot about those aspects, and how also children that are growing up now and have maybe share same experiences could maybe feel the same way. And yeah, so I grew up always thinking about how people could perceive me instead of just being myself, um, and letting those people think what they want. And yeah, that's a very difficult experience for me, because it takes a lot of energy to always be thinking about how are people perceiving me when I show myself like this, or when I talk like this, or when I just am who I am, instead of just being, yes, and existing. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think that that's a question that all people have to deal with at some point.
mhm,
Um, am I going to be judged for being who I am? Um, when did
mhm.
you come to the point where you said, I'm just going to embrace everything that I am, and no matter what other people think about it? How long did that take, that process?
I would say that the process is still ongoing, because it's always kind of a conflict within myself, that I have trouble really knowing who I am. And yeah, I think that stems from that it's always a journey to um, really learn how who I am, and what how I can feel confident about myself, I would say. Because yeah, it's still a thought in my head that people could be judging, and people are thinking certain things, and I don't want to meet those prejudice or anything, because I just want to be me.
Mm,
And I would say I feel a lot better about that, and I feel a lot better about myself. But it's still a process. So I still have moments where it's hard to really know. Yeah.
yeah. How do you integrate your music into this this looking for a home within yourself?
I would say music for me was always a form of art where I would feel connected to the emotions that are flowing inside of those pieces. And I myself feel like it helps me a lot to channel emotions and things that I feel, or experiences, through my music, and put it out without feeling um, like I could be perceived in some kind of way, because most of the time art is just perceived and not really judged in my way of thinking. And that helps me a lot. I often just talk about feelings that I have um, in metaphoric ways. Um, yeah, and it's a way of putting out those feelings and emotions and thoughts without feeling the need to think about how that could be perceived. exactly.
Do you
Yes.
play with other people?
Mostly, I make music at home on my computer because I played the piano for a long time, but for now I prefer to do it digitally, and therefore that's why the microphone stands here. I often record myself and do everything at home, and it just feels um, like it's connecting me to my passions, and also my passions are part of my identity, and it's I grew up with listening to a lot of music, a lot of different music, also the music that my mother listened to or my dad listened to, and yeah, I was always happy seeing all those perspectives and being able to feel what is put in the music. Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. So tell me about some experiences that made you decide you really wanted to work in education.
Um, I feel like I was always able to empathize with a lot of things that people were feeling or told me or I experienced in the internet or anything, I would say. And I also got a lot of feedback that I am a very empathetic person, and people like talking to me about many different topics and feelings. And I also grew up in a family where we have I have a lot of brothers and sisters, so their children often came to visit us, and I had fun playing with them, and the children also um, felt a lot of sympathy towards me, I would say, and so there I started getting the idea of maybe I could do that and work in that space. And then I started to try it out, and now I began my yeah how do you call it, Ausbildung, in a kindergarten.
Studies. You
Yeah,
could
my
say
studies.
studies.
Exactly, in childhood education. And yes, I would say it was the right choice. I am still learning and I am still in my studies, but it was the right choice because I really feel like it's giving things back to me, and I can um, bring a lot for these children. And the children are showing me that they are very grateful to have me there, and I can also help them. And yeah, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel safe. And that's what
Mhm.
is most important to me, to being able to build a safe space for these children, and um, yeah, just being there when they need me. Exactly. Yeah.
I think little kids are the greatest.
Yes, I would agree on that one. I would say it's a completely different experience, having to or to be able to see all those little children grow up and make different experiences, and also have different interests, because every day I see children being interested in many different things. It could be books, um, it could be movement and moving a lot, and yeah, it's completely different, and it's very inspiring also, and yeah, makes you think a lot about yourselves and your own behavior. And yes.
Do you have, when you're working with children, are are there children that you have had the experience with that are struggling with their identity? Maybe
Um,
children of mixed race parentage or of of different culture, parentage, that really sort of don't feel comfortable on one side or the other. And if you have experience with children who are going through that, how do you help them?
Um, I would say I had those experiences and still have, because I also have children in the group that I can sometimes see that they don't feel comfortable within the group, and sometimes, I mean, especially toddlers are having trouble to communicate some things sometimes. So I really, as an educator, you really have to look for the hints that the children give you, and their language, body language, and everything, to be able to maybe ask yourself what lies behind that and what feeling is behind that. And I often see children that I think are left out or feel left out because they don't really find a way of connecting to the group or connecting to other children, and are more likely to sit elsewhere in the room and yeah, just be for themselves. And the way that I see it is, when I see children that feel like that, or that are behaving in that way, I try to confront them, or to talk to them and to be there for them, and to maybe unlock a little bit of interest in playing with me or with other educators or with other children, and finding a way to yeah, find what their spark is, I would say. Because sometimes it's just that they don't feel comfortable or safe enough in that space to do what they want to do, or to completely feel free. Um, and that's why sometimes you just have to give little impulses, I would say, to maybe catch their attention, and catch them right where they are feeling that they are not really free in what they can do, and maybe then they are able to open up and be more safe and feel more safe. And sometimes, in my experiences, it also worked that children who didn't really play with a lot of different children, or had trouble identifying with the group, started to connect to some of those children. Yeah. And also we have a lot of different materials that are helping to the children to see what they identify with, because in the kindergarten we have a lot of different toys that represent yeah, the different cultural backgrounds, and we have puppets of different skin colors. We have books that talk about different problems, also with discrimination and topics like that. Of course, in a way that is suited for children in that age. And yeah, sometimes, or most of the time, those books also help the children understand these processes. Yeah, exactly.
Do you make music with the children?
Sometimes I sing with the children when I just have that in mind, or children are showing me that they are interested in drumming around on objects or something like that. I pick that idea up and start singing with them, or maybe start engaging in singing with them together, and or picking different songs. Sometimes I ask the children what they want to sing, and they bring their own songs with them, and I ask them do you know how the song goes? Because I don't. Maybe you can help me that we can sing the song together. And yeah, sometimes we do that. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Did you ever, there is an idea that a lot of people have, it's like um, children are a blank slate and everything that comes is coming from the outside, etc. I personally never thought that,
Mm-hmm.
because even very, very young babies, like a couple of months, show differences in personality.
Mm-hmm.
But did you ever have the experience of children who really consciously discriminate against other children because they're different somehow? Maybe they look different, or maybe they speak a different language or something. Did you ever have that experience that children, even very young children, actively discriminate?
Um, I would say yes. I had that experience because I myself witnessed that some children also pick those ideas up. I would say maybe from their own household, or maybe from different aspects that they are perceiving in this world. And we had some children also that in the group were playing in a group together, and when another child wanted to join the group, they actively said, "Not you." Um,
Mm,
Sometimes it's just that they don't feel like they are friends, but in that specific case, I think it was that the child felt like it couldn't really connect to that other child because of a difference of skin color. And
mm,
we try to, in the kindergarten, to always um, write those things, and to explain to the children that that's not fair. And we ask the child that was left out of the group how it feels. And most of the time, or in that specific case, um, the child felt sad and was feeling left out because it told me it wanted to play with the group. And therefore, I picked that up and listened to that child, and the feelings that the child talked to me about. And afterwards, I explained to the other kid that um, the thing he said was not fair towards the other child, and that child feels sad about that thing because it felt left out of the group, and it doesn't know why it felt left out of the group. And we try to make the children understand that what the consequences are of those actions, and also why those actions are not fair. Exactly.
mhm.
Yes.
It's so interesting that not fair is
Hmm.
something that children really react to. They
Hmm.
have this real sense for fairness and justice and so on.
Hmm.
So if you say that's not nice, it doesn't really affect them. But if you say that's not fair, they think about it more.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Because um, also in that age, children mostly are in a phase, or in a phase of growing up, where they are constantly focused, or mostly interested about their own perception of the world and how they feel about themselves, and it's very ego driven, I would say. And it's hard for children in that age to really sometimes understand that other children or the other persons in the room also have their own perception and their own feelings, and that things can hurt them because they are very, very, yeah, driven by their own ego and what they want and what they need and who they are. And that's why we try also to help them understand, because in that age sometimes children are not even able to understand that. And that's why we try to explain and help understand the children that felt a certain kind of way or sad or does feel left out, to explain that to the other children so they can also understand it, because it's very hard in that age. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of too abstract for them.
Hmm. And it's always different because um, most of the time this is in a category where we talk about a certain age where those children are doing this or are in that phase of development, but it always varies from child to child. Some children are also able um, to understand the process behind that a lot earlier, and the children are starting to feel, especially in kindergarten, where they are, yeah, where they are in a group with many different children, not maybe like when they are at home and they are the only child or something different. They have to build that sort of sense for justice also, because yeah, in kindergarten, there are many situations where the children are taking things away from others or pushing children because they try to communicate a feeling or a need that they have, but they don't find the way of doing that verbally sometimes as well.
Mhm.
And when we help them understand what is going on in those situations better, then they start to build that own sense of justice and when it's fair and when it's not fair. And yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, I just will take a look if anyone from the audience has a question for you. Um, if you have questions, then please put them in the question box and we will get to them. There is one question. Are your parents still together? And what is your relationship with them? Are they aware of your struggles in finding your identity? And how did they react? Well, that's one question, which is actually four.
Mhm. That's a very good question, I would say. My parents are not no longer living together and are no longer together. I'm currently living with my mom, and I still have contact to my dad and to my mom, or very good contact to both of them. And that also, I would say, played or it is had some impact in me trying to find a way in my identity, because both of those parts are flowing into my identity, and I didn't always feel like they were merged, I would say. Um, yes, and they know about those struggles, I would say, and they also talked about them while I grew up, because I was met with different conflicts because of that. And also I had, as I was a child, I had a lot of comments about my hair sometimes. And yeah, they were also talking about those conflicts. So sometimes my mom could bring in points of her own experiences where she could explain to my dad why different things are happening with me right now, or different conflicts are happening within me. And also my dad had his own perspective of things and experiences which explains some other factors that I had in my childhood where I was met with struggles or had different perspectives of the world and how it functions and how my life in Germany, in Berlin, is working. Yes.
Just make it clear for me, did you always live in Berlin?
I always lived in Berlin, yes.
Okay. Because of course that makes a difference growing up. If you live in a city which is so multicultural,
Hmm.
or if you maybe were living in a smaller German town, it really makes a difference.
Yeah. I would say that growing up in Berlin made me think that this sort of multiculturalism and all those different kinds of people and diversity was the standard and default thing for me. And that's why it was very hard sometimes to understand that there are these issues of discrimination and everything in the world, because I never saw the world like that people are that much different. For me, people were just people with their own stories and own backgrounds, and I never felt the need to judge them or anything, because I always felt like it's there are just many different people in this world with many different lives, many different backgrounds, and that's just it for me. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I also think that I grew up being a person that often reflects on myself, because it I'm quite an overthinker, I would say. Also, that was the other point that I brought up earlier, where I talked about me always thinking how I could be perceived from others, and
Mhm.
also what I am often thinking about is how people could feel in different kinds of situations, or how people could feel when I'm talking to them, or how I am talking makes people think some things, and that's why I always try to understand what is going on with people, and to try to be as empathetic as I can, because I never want uh, somebody that I talk to feel to not feel understood and heard. I always want to build a safe environment to, yeah, to just be open to listen to things and to perspectives, and yeah.
Did you ever have an experience of um, some expression of another culture where you thought, I really don't understand that?
um I would say yes, and but I don't. I would say yes, but I don't really have an idea of how I could explain that, because for me it was often just I was wondering about wondering how it works, and how the values that culture brings are working, and what they are rooted in. But I never felt like it was a sort of I wasn't never emotional about that. I was just thinking to myself, how does that work? And I was always interested in learning about
Mm.
yeah, how life could be lived in different ways from different people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also sometimes when sometimes when you say, I don't understand that, very often people, when they say that, they
Mhm.
also have a judgment.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand that, therefore that's bad.
Hmm.
Um, how do you avoid that kind of thinking when you're working with children?
Mm, I I would say it's um, the way that helps me avoid that way of thinking is that especially within children, there's always in every behavior and in every form of communication that they make, there's always a need behind that, and I always try to understand what need they are trying to communicate by their behavior and by their communication or body language and everything, because I myself see children as individuals that are trying to figure out how the world works, and sometimes they are overwhelmed by their emotions or by situations that they witnessed, and I always try to just understand what led uh, them to the point that they, for example, if a children is pushing another children because another child because of a toy that they wanted or anything like that, I always try to understand what led to them using that tool to express themselves. And oftentimes we figure out that the need behind that action was something completely um, different, and it was not meant to be harmful. And that often helps me avoid that, because I also question my own ways a lot when working with children, because who says that the way I am doing things or I am yeah thinking is always right or does have to be the right way, and um why can't there be other solutions to it and
Mhm.
other ways? So I think most of the time when people are not understanding values or behaviors of other cultures or of other people in such way that they are that it's meant in a judging way, um, it's also, I would say, sometimes a lack of self-reflection, because you could always question your own ways at first to better understand what what points are important to the other person in that kind of behavior, I would say. Yes.
There is one question
Hmm.
from our participant, Ruth Spencer. Uh, Ruth Spencer asks, have you ever been to Senegal? And if so, how did people react to you?
Um, Actually, I have never been to Senegal so far, but I really want to go there because it's also a thing I would say that for me is a must do to find my full identity, because I
Mhm.
could not connect with Senegal, in that kind of way. I just connected through my family and their experiences and what they told me and their lives, but I never was able so far to be there myself. Exactly. And yeah, that's also a thing that I talk to my mother about sometimes, um, of how people would perceive me there, because I myself think that most of the time, or I experienced it in that way, that most of the time people um, perceive me as a white person, and I would say that maybe that would be happening as well, because it's just the first thing that comes to mind, I would say, or I can understand why that comes to mind. Yes.
Yeah. One of our keynotes who was taking a trip to Benin,
Mhm.
where her father is from, she also said that when she was walking in the street, the little kids were running after her,
Mhm.
and also that they perceived her as white.
Mhm.
And she was very surprised by this.
Mhm. Yeah, I often also had um, the experience the other way around in here in Germany or in Berlin, that as I went to school and I was very little, my dad brought me to school. Um, there was no questions asked about that. But when my mom came to pick me up from school, people reacted in a way that, oh, I didn't expect that your mom was black, and
Mm,
that always was a thing for me that I would not understand as a child, but now I can understand why that perception is that way and why people would not think like that, because my skin color is mostly, I would say, yeah, white. And yeah, but there was also experiences that I made, and yeah.
Um, because you're very often perceived as white, um, did you ever have like difficulty connecting to your black friends, or that black people didn't accept you as part of their group?
Mm, I would say that it's not that much about them not accepting me. I would say they mostly accepted me the way I am, but there was a struggle within myself that I oftentimes thought, am I really capable of being like that or showing that side? Or I really liked, for example, to listen to music with African backgrounds, and I like the rhythms, and I like to do that music myself. But I often have that conflict to that I'm not sure to put that music out, because yeah, I'm scared that there might be people thinking that that's a white person doing that, and that it
Mm.
should be it would be weird, or it would not be appropriate. Yes.
Mm. How can you support young children so that they can meet that kind of a challenge better without having any painful
Mhm.
questions to themselves?
Mm, I would I would say it always starts with um, giving them the opportunity to see many different diverse things in this world, and many people and many different things, and knowing that that is okay and that is how the world works, and that there are many different um, cultures and identities and people um, coming from different countries, and that so that they themselves and their identities can feel um, free, I would say, because um, there's not that much. Um, how can I put it? I would say that just giving them the opportunity to see many different aspects that they could identify themselves with, so they find a own way of matching their personalities and identities to things that they um, are interested in, or that they feel comfortable with. And if there are these conflicts that we can show inside of the kindergarten, for example, that we as a team or as a kindergarten as a whole are all working together with different cultural backgrounds and different also gender, and that we create a space where we all connect.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about this kind of discrimination. When I was growing up, it was something I just didn't understand. I
Mhm.
knew that it existed, and I even sometimes experienced it, but I couldn't understand what what the problem was.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that's quite um, a normal and healthy attitude from
Mhm.
kids going, well, yeah, I know that you think like that, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
And
and
I also think that for me, most important is to allow the children to be just be able to live out their interests and needs as best as possible. So yeah, they can build that identity in a safe environment without having to the need of questioning anything or being in conflict because yeah, some things are not accepted or tolerated. So for me, it's just I just want to be able to make the children be safe in their development. Yes, and
Mhm.
yeah.
And do you find it difficult to know when you have to set up a limit, to because when children express themselves freely, sometimes their expression takes forms that you go, no, well, no,
Hmm.
you can't do that.
Hmm.
Um, how do you find the right moment to say this is a limit?
Um, Oftentimes we it's a process also of discussion inside the team and also with the children together of which rules we want to make and apply on in the group, so that we can also when people are behaving in some kind of way that we think we should put a limit to that, that we can explain why we put that certain limit and that the children can understand, oh, okay, I understand why that way of behaving was not all right in the group or could lead to being harmful, for example, or that they could hurt themselves, for example. Um, so we are often in discussion, and every time we try to figure out new ways of putting those rules so that everyone can have their part in deciding on how we are going to manage that. And also, it's very important that the children are a part of that process and are allowed to decide along us as well to figure out how we can find the optimal way for everyone. Yeah.
Mm. Did you ever have a situation where that sort of didn't really work?
Sometimes, especially with toddlers, it's difficult to yeah, help them understand the process of, for example, when we organize events for parents and children, like in the summer or on different how do you call it? Feiertage,
Holidays.
holidays. Yes, that we organize, that we let the children also vote on the games they want to play or the things they want to have. And for the older children already, or the 5-year-olds, for example, it's easier to understand the process of, okay, I can decide what I want to have in that specific event. For the toddlers, it's sometimes hard to make them figure out what they are doing exactly, because we try to show them pictures on what we want to do, and we give them little like coins that they can throw in the basket to vote, and sometimes they don't really understand what is going on, but we are always trying to help them be in the position that they can also decide what is going on. Yes, but because I think that's like the most important part, to not decide everything as adults over the children's head, and to just do those things, and the children have to follow along. So we want the children to be able to create their own events and life in the kindergarten, I would say, so they could feel comfortable and also feel seen, and they can put out their personalities inside of the day-to-day life in the kindergarten.
How is it working with the parents? Do the parents support this approach?
Oftentimes, also parents want to decide for themselves, and sometimes we have also discussions with the parents that the children are able to decide also for themselves what they want to do, and especially in kindergarten, we stand for that fact that the children are the highest priority, and they should be able to design those events as well. And parents also have also there's many parents supporting that thing, but there's also a lot of parents that are having trouble to understand why we are letting children that in their minds are not able to understand that, and are not able to decide anything in that age, are deciding about those things. But we always try to explain to them, or to work with them to understand better how we can do that, and also bring in the information that parents are giving us. For example, if there are some things that they don't want in the events because of cultural reasons, or if there are things that they want represented in the events, that then we can talk about that, and we can try to figure out ways how we can implement those things in that as well.
Yeah. I used to think that to work with children, you also have to work with their parents.
Mm-hmm. It's I would say that's oftentimes that's the most difficult part, because we as educators are, I would say, experts at knowing about the informations behind the development of children, and the optimal ways to find specific dynamics in the groups and such. But the parents are always experts of their own children. They know their children best, and that's why it's very important to be in constant communication from parents to educators, so we can figure out how to be able to meet the needs of the children as best as possible, and also to be able to meet the needs of the parents as best as possible. So it's very difficult sometimes as well, but we have to be very empathetic towards the parents as well, to understand their way of thinking and their worries, because yeah, it's their worries also always find a place in our work, and we value that they are open to communicate to us what their worries are and their needs are, so we can try to find an optimal way of matching our internal way of how we manage the days in kindergarten, and how the parents are wishing it to be. Yeah.
Mhm. What do you do as an educator when you have the impression that there are some things in the parents' value or their way of behaving with their children, which is actually harmful to the
Mhm.
children? How do you
Um,
work that out?
at first, as an educator myself, I mostly we figure that out by the behavior of the children in the kindergarten, because yeah, if the parents are um, engaging with the kids in such ways that could be harmful, mostly the children are showing that in their behavioral systems in kindergarten, that they could show signs of insecurity and being yeah, very unwell at sometimes, or maybe even trying to hide. That are signs that might be the case, and we try to always find the time to communicate to the parents as well, and talk to the parents about how the day went, how the kid is behaving in kindergarten, how it feels. And if we see those signs, we talk to the parents, we try to ask them what is happening, how is it like at home, is the child feeling safe at home, does it have the feeling that yeah, it's not feeling that well or anything like that. And sometimes we can figure that out with the parents themselves, but sometimes also in some cases the parents know what they are doing. And if there is no way of trying to communicate with the parents to help them understand what they are doing, we have to um, we have to reach out to the Jugendamt, or there's it's called in German, it's called the Kindernotdienst, where they take care of those kind of problems, and
Mhm.
engage in communication with the parents about those topics.
Yeah. In English, it's called the Child Protective Services.
Mhm. Yeah.
But that's the last resort.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the last step, when we really have no way of communicating with the parents and trying to help the child. Then we have to talk to our yeah, president of the kindergarten, for example, or yeah, and then reach out to, yeah, Kindernotdienst.
Mhm. Well, we have no more questions coming from the
Mhm.
audience. Is there something that you would like to share with us about, yeah, about actually anything,
Mhm.
about your own search for identity or your way of giving support to children and to their parents, to families?
Um, I would say one thing that is very important for me in general is that I always want to try, yeah, to build a safe environment for everyone, and that I think that is a thing that is very undervalued oftentimes, that we try to understand everyone better and to also ask questions about things that we don't understand instead of judging them beforehand and going with those prejudices instead of trying to self-reflect about maybe why those prejudices are there, and we are doing it exactly, and that's the most important thing, I would say.
Yeah, there came another question popped up. Knowing what you know about yourself now, what would you tell yourself as a young child?
I would tell myself that I should uh, I should not think that much about how I could be perceived or what could be the thoughts of people in the future in situations that didn't happen yet, and instead just accept myself the way I am and be confident about it, and to put myself out there to also represent who I am and the parts that there is to take part in the diversity that exists.
And would you listen?
I would say that I would listen to that, yes. It would be also a hard thing because I would over question it, but yeah.
Okay, then think we can actually, even though it's a little bit early, we can close it up now. I thank you for many, many insights about what it means to be an educator of young children and to have the values that you have. And I wish you lots and lots of luck in your studies and later on as an educator of young children and also with your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps we'll meet in Berlin one day.
Thank you. And thank you also for the opportunity to speak here.